Welcome to the Tenaciously Resolute podcast. And today I have a returning guest, one of my good friends, Miss Karyn Forbes. And we know her here in Tobago fondly as Baby. So you guys, we have Baby in the studio. Hi Baby, welcome back.
Hi Karyn, thanks for having me.
So guys, we have Baby here today and we're going to be discussing her new book, right? So she's not a first-time author. This is her second installment, right?
That's correct.
So we're discussing her new book, Behind the Captain's Whistle.
So it's Beyond the Whistle?
Beyond the Captain's Whistle. And guess what? This book is not just a football-based book, but it can be used as a leadership guide for anybody in any leadership position in a company, in a household, across the board. So it really and truly details a lot of her journey in football.
That's correct.
As well as all the different politics, and you know, with politics we have corruption, and with that we have all the little nitty-gritties that come behind the red cards and all of that. And it would truly point to like her journey as to how she would have been able to surmount a lot of the issues.
Correct.
And today she's going to tell us all about it. So, Baby, what inspired the book? What inspired this one, this specific?
So I have been playing football for the last 27 years, but I've been playing nationally for the last 21 years. Mm-hmm. So throughout actually going through that journey of football, I decided, hey, you know what, I want to be able to share my journey, because I moved from being a regular player to a captain, right? So there was different levels in my journey when it comes to football. So I said, you know what, I have been writing the script throughout that journey, right? And whether it was in my mind at first, and then I put it to paper.
So was it like excerpts from your journal or something like that?
So definitely yes, right? I have been doing this throughout that journey, right? And in now taking the opportunity to say, okay, I am going to put pen to paper and actually put this into actual story. So this is now, the book is inspired by being a survival guide for the next generation, the next captain, the next leader. You know, things that I have went through and how did I get over that, or overcome that, I should say.
Okay, very nice. So essentially, you see a survival guide. So it raises the stakes immediately, right?
Right.
What did you survive from? Because you have me a little bit uneasy, right? What did you survive from? Now, we all know football is a contact sport.
Definitely.
We all know that there's massive following for it across the world, and you would have traveled extensively pursuing that sport and pursuing, you know, increased development. I could even say you would have grown through the hierarchy, right? So what was some of the things that you felt like you had to put in the book?
So I will speak about a red card first, right? Because we're talking football terminologies here. And, you know, getting a red card and going a man down, you know, in those instances, you tend to drop your head, you feel like you let down the team and so forth. And I spoke about the fact that I had to use resilience, you know, to pick myself back up, because you don't want your players to see you look defeated, even though you may feel some type of way.
Absolutely.
Additionally to that, the book spoke about being able to wake up early and being resilient, being disciplined, being motivated, determined, you know, to be able to achieve my goal, right, which is to continue to be the best that I could have been right, in the sport of football, but not only on that basis, but I know that I wasn't only leading myself as a captain, I was leading other young persons and my team by extension.
Excellent. Okay. So your teammates, I know that they would have gravitated to you to seek some sort of wisdom, because I'm thinking about it, it's a group of women,
Yeah.
you know how we are, we emotional, territorial, all y'alls, as a matter of fact. And when you're there, you have to manage all these disputes, all these emotional outbursts. It's high tensions.
Yeah.
Everybody's adrenaline is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
And we're having issues that pop up within the sport because somebody may not have probably made the right call.
Right.
How were you able to deal with something like that on the spot?
So different players have different personalities. It's just like in an organization. You will have different personalities within the organization. So I would not deal with, for example, A like I would deal with B, right? And I'm just hypothetically speaking here, right? So what happened, because it's a team of 11, or I should say 18 players, but 11 players on the field, you have 18 different personalities, right? And having the humble spirit to be able to listen, because listening is a huge part of leadership, right? I think the girls feel very welcome to be able to have a conversation, because it's almost like I come down to their level. And in doing that, it helps them to feel comfortable enough to open up and to speak to me. So my journey as a captain or as a leader has been more of a big sister role for these girls, because they want to be respected. And I am a woman, and as I said, I came from the part of not being the captain and actually being the captain. So I had a chance to be in the back
seat, yeah.
And then I had a chance of being in the front. And it's two different roles, right? Because when you're in the back, you don't have to worry about leading, right? But when you're in the front, when you look back, you're seeing your team. So no matter what happens on the field, especially if you're being thumped by one of the number one ranked teams, you just can't show any weakness, and I had those situations, and I think those were some of the moments that would have built my character tremendously, is being able to be going, let's say, losing by 5 goals by the number one ranked team, which is USA, one of the giants of CONCACAF, and you're looking at your players and you trying to cheer them on, I think that...
So that the team morale doesn't drop.
Correct. So, and I could remember one game in particular, we held Canada, which have all sort of players all over. We didn't have those type of exposure. And we held them 70 minutes, and we had like literally 20 minutes to go, and then we started to concede goals because, we got a little tired.
Yeah.
And, just seeing that their heads were dropped, you can't drop your head. And I think those are some of the moments that I could hold on to and say that, hey, no matter what, I still rallied my team. I still motivated my players. I could remember at one time I was like, listen, we still have to finish the game. Let's go. Let's do this. But deep down within you, you feel in some type of way.
Yeah.
And being in that position, that leadership position would have placed me in a position that, hey, no matter what, you can't drop your head. Even if the players drop their head, you can't. And, that is some of the comfort that helped them even on that specific journey.
That was interesting that you said, you can't drop your head. In the real world, and when we look at sports, we often count goals.
Right.
Primarily, because the point is to score, or the point is to win. I mean, it's competition, right? But when you think of it, football is 90 minutes, right? 70 out of 90 minutes. That is a big deal for a team that is probably outclass you,
For sure.
70 minutes, but I'm assuming that during the process, it doesn't feel like that. You are not going to be analyzing, well, we're doing good. 70 minutes in, we only had 20 to go. For getting extra time or whatever else, we holding them off. But as with any sport, the fatigue, the nerves, the lactic acid build up, somebody push you, things like that. I'm assuming that all of that contributes to morale falling apart.
Yeah, and just to add on that, you know, in those moments, it's very easy to start biting at each other, if you understand what I mean. And I think I spoke about the fact that, you know, in leadership positions, you know, you have to find a way to be able to remain calm, right? Because your calmness could be the very thing that helps the team, right? And being able to pick your players up. And it's just like life, because everything that is in book is in relation to life, even though it's snippets from the book. And one of the things that I did mention in this book in particular is the fact that when you talk about leadership and sports, right? It's leadership is not about just winning trophies. The biggest win is really being able to impact lives, right? And that is what I take away from this particular journey. You know, being able to impact these girls' life positively, that they themselves can impact someone else's life. So Beyond the Whistle is really a survival guide in that regard. So many young person could see that they not only could be like me, but even better.
Excellent. So is football all about the big stadiums, the glitz, the glamour, the trophies? Is it all about that, or do we have some things in the back that we don't talk about? What's happening there?
I think with football and the many teams that I've played with, we have built a sisterhood, a bond, you know, friendships. And I think being around a team setting is so great, because now I could even go as far as talking about periods. Now things has become so scientific, right? That you are around your team and your periods start to get in sync with each other.
Because you all are around
correct.
each other all the time.
And that's the bond that, you know, kind of happens with the team. But let me say this, you will always have people who, well, cliques on the team and persons that not going, always have little issues, especially when you are around a team for a very long time. And I think that's something that a lot of persons never really thought about, right? But the onus is to still be able to get your team or your caucus to really understand there is a goal at hand, right? And we have to achieve this goal. So you don't have to talk to me on the field, right? Off the field, sorry.
Yeah, personal problems have to be kept off the
correct
field.
Because as women, we are around the same space. You think about you camping for 2 to 3 weeks with just the same person, you're gonna get little one or two drama.
I can see the eye roll loading. You know, beside eye loading. Yeah,
you're gonna get little drama going on, and that's fine, because you know it's a little conflict. You know, it brings some good vibes in regards to now it's competitive, right? So that's one of the things I do believe that, you know, is not really talked about. And then the fact that you now have not only your sisters, but just 11 or 18 or 23 sisters, you know, you have persons, you may go into an area, just saying, like, let's say I travel to New York and one of those players are actually in New York, right? In New York, what happens then is that you can now call a person and say, hey, I'm in New York, you know, and so that bond that you build, and that is for a lifetime.
So it might, well, I'm assuming, because usually with universities or anywhere that people come together, because in football that's exactly what you do all over the diaspora, but all over the world. You travel, you always build new friendships,
correct,
new relationships. So I could just imagine being able to be at any country, or probably not any country, but in any region of the world, and be like, hey, I know somebody from here, and they know you, and you know, you all could. But as a captain and even as a player, when you interact with foreign teams, well, I know the competition is on the stage, on the field, but off the field, is there opportunities for interactions with other teams, or is it that once there's teams that are outside of probably your country, do you all have the opportunity to talk or to liaise? How does that go?
When it comes to nationally, it's a different battle. So you may not have the opportunity to interact as much as you would like to, simply because most times you're going to be in your specific hotel. I think where you get more interaction is if you play professionally and you end up on that same team with that person or persons from different countries. Now, what that does when you go back to the national team and we compete against each other, this is where again is the sisterhood and the bond that takes place. So definitely I would have to say when you go professionally, I think it's more in that regard opposed to the national team, because when it's national team is business.
So I'm really trying to see how this works, right? So me and my good friend on the other team, because I'm playing with you professionally, right? We bounce up because the two of us qualified and we had it's 1-0, right? Yeah. So imagine you looking at your friend who's now an opponent. How does that feel? Like what runs through your mind?
I think it's cool. It's a healthy battle, right? We know when you're on the field, you mean business. When you come off the field, then we will hug.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like for me personally, and I know for other person, you're represented red, white, and black is war. Yeah. It's war. We're trying to achieve something, a lot at stakes, and you want to be able to, battle. And of course, your pep talk from your coach and so forth. More you're sweating pre-time, the less you bleed in wartime. It's wartime. From the time you step on the green, it's wartime. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that from a more sportsman way, if you understand what I mean. Because I think, and that doesn't mean that if you fall down, you may not. Sometimes you might get a little picong on the field too, because that's part of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice to see. To me, sports is about, it just brings people together. It's always, you may not always be happy, right, but at least you always will be interested at some point in time during the game. So in any organization, there's structure, there's policy, there's corruption. In football, have you experienced anything like that, or has it just been easy sailing out? Straight to the point. I want to know.
Well, it's alleged that, is always in that regard.
You can start with it's alleged, that's safe. Right, so allegedly, is there corruption?
It's alleged, but I be trying my best to do the right thing. That's what I could say for sure.
The reason why I asked pointedly that question, over the years in Trinidad and Tobago, we have seen numerous athletes come out and say, we're not getting sponsorship, we're not getting enough funding, we're not getting enough equipment, we're not getting... persons being out of the country and still not having received probably hotels, state transportation, foods, basic amenities to ensure that operations continue. So I'm asking, in your experience, have you ever faced things like that? How were you able to operate? Because you still have to play the game when you get there.
I think in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't take sports very seriously. I have seen what sports has done for me, and, seeing the defaults that happening at this point in time as it relates to the increasing crime rate and these different things. I think sports could curb that, because think about it. When Trinidad and Tobago plays, let's say the men team, for example. I know the women have a game coming up. I wish them all the best. But when the men team plays, everybody comes out and they be so happy. Whenever Keyshawn Walcott or Jerome Richards does something, it's sharing all over Facebook. So you see in sports has the capacity to be able to bring that positivity and that good vibes. It's just for us to be able to do it. But, it's a bit political in some instances, and I'm just saying that because everybody wants to do their own thing. They believe in doing it this way, this party, and then the next party might believe in doing it another way. And you can't really say nothing towards that because everybody has their vision. But it also affects the sports, and that's just me being honest, But at the end of the day, I have experienced a lot where sports is concerned, because I could tell you for a fact, Karys, I have represented the national team for so long, and I've never been honored. Never. But that doesn't stop me from doing what I'm doing, because I am not doing it for accolade, and I think my work does not go unnoticed. right? And if that is what it is, that is what it is. But I'm not going to try, and I'm not trying to highlight it to say that I need an accolade, but I'm just saying we are not appreciating our own. But yet you could go out to the States, do something, and people out there honor you, you know. So they really say a man have no honor in his own land, right? And that's the truth, and that's the truth. And I not trying to sugarcoat that, because I think that not only myself, but there's a lot of persons that has passed through the ranks and going to pass through the ranks, whether it's from Tobago or Trinidad and Tobago, and we are not honoring them. And that's not good enough, because and I'm not speaking on behalf of myself. I'm just seeing that there's a lot of persons who are coming back in here with to Tobago with degrees and so forth, and they can't get a job. They have to fight up with the general population in order to get that. I'm not saying that things should be handed to you. I'm saying that there should be a place for sports people who have gone out and gained that experience to come back in our country and be able to help, as you say, deposit, to develop, to help the next generation, to produce more sportsmen. And I talking about sports. I not talking literally about football. I talking about sports. And when you look around Tobago in general, you could see that we can be a force to be reckoned with, but things have to be better. It has to. There has to be a proper plan. And the plan is not, I am planning for now. I have to plan 8 years from now. That is what the Chinese does. That's what the Japanese does. That's what the Americans does. That's what the Mexican does. You know, they have a full plan. They allocate money to that, you know, and that is stuff that we have to do for the development of our sports.
In Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think that we have had like a really good track record with succession planning, right? And I don't think that is specific to sports alone. I do know when it comes to sports, because I'm heading back in the direction of financial matters within sports, and not just sports, but specifically football, that over the years, though the more senior programs will probably get some attention, you will probably, because I'm not certain, have you all ever experienced not being able to get the supplies that you needed, or is that just something that happens at the lower tiers? What do you think?
That happen all the time. It's a very difficult road for a youth. I've been honest with you, Caris. It's very difficult for a youth to want to persevere in the sporting field, because what has worked for me is that I just don't give up. I'm very resilient. I'm going to find a way. I need to find a way out if sports is going to work for me, because really and truly, sports has done everything for me. It has gave me exposure. It has also helped me to be an entrepreneur, where I was able to now have the finances to do a store, right? It built my journey in both copies of these books, right? And as a person, right, I spoke about this actually on Tobago Updates. I said, you know, I went up for the previous election and I've lost. And really and truly, what has helped me is the fact that I have done sports. I know what is to win. I know what is to lose. I have lost certain games that was very difficult and have to bounce back. You know, almost coming close to qualify for a World Cup and having to pick yourself back up. So with this situation, I'm not saying that it is easy. I'm saying that because I have already put myself in that esteemed position, it is a little bit more easier for me to be able to transition and move on from that, you know, and into whatever lies ahead.
Do you think that it is possible to be taught how to get over failure, or is this something you have to travel through by your own experience?
By your own experience, because everybody deals with things differently, right? For me, of course, the loss has been a journey, right? But because I have picked myself back up and I'm moving on, I'm actually doing this book launch. So I'm in the process of doing that. I'm in the process also of doing Kick It with Karyn, you know, planning that.
And
so
what edition are you on now?
I'm on the 11th edition.
All right, great. Because I was at the first one, I've been around a long time.
Definitely.
Right? But congratulations, though. 11.
Thank you.
Big 11. That's good.
Thank you. And, you know, this is not one stop 5 stop. This is 11 consecutive years.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's been a journey each year because sponsorship is not guaranteed, right? But I do fundraisers. I just did one last week Friday in respect to the Kick It with Karyn. So now in Planet, go ahead.
Are your community supporting you? Because the reason why I asked, right? Fundraisers specific to sports, you know, is neither here nor there. Normally if a school does it or a youth club or police youth club. But now that you have, I would definitely can say you have impaled yourself fully.
Yeah.
Although you came out of the community of Plymouth, you would have impaled yourself fully into Plymouth and environs.
Right.
Right? Are persons supporting the fundraisers?
Absolutely. We have been doing these fundraisers leading up to the tournament. The only reason why I didn't do any in January is because we just came off of the election, so I was now pivoting, right? But the fundraiser last Friday was really supported, you know, even from new persons that is now, you know, a little bit more familiar with me, right? But all our fundraisers that myself and my mom does, they are well supported, and I'm really grateful for, and I'm talking about not only in Plymouth, but outside of Plymouth. But we pride ourselves on quality, so every fundraiser, we make sure that everything tastes up to scratch, so persons are always wanting to come and support.
But that's fantastic. I just wanted to know. So, guys, anytime you see a fundraiser pop up, you know what you have to do, right? Support bad to kids. Oh, gosh. All that is every week. I can't be telling all of this thing every week. Support or entrepreneur support or footballers or athletes.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, anybody that passes through the podcast, you know, it's quality over here, right? So let's jump back into the book, right? Because I know that Kick It with Karyn is just one facet.
Right.
You know, what would you have learned from producing your own? Is it a league? Would you consider it a league, or would you consider it a clinic? What is it?
It's really a developmental tournament. Kick It with Karyn is just a branch off of many things that I would like to do. But because Kick It with Karyn takes at least 5 months to prepare per year, right? Well, actually, I started 1 or 2 fundraisers before.
Yeah.
Right? What is happening is that I was actively still playing, so I couldn't do other things that I would like to do. But now that I just finished playing, so I retired a few days ago from the national team, I'm still going to play club-wise, but not nationally, right? Just giving the opportunity for more of the younger players to get a chance to step up. And then I start to move into life after, and this is one of the reasons why I released the book Beyond the Whistle, you know, because I am now going beyond the threshold of just being at the junction of football. Football has an expiry date. You know, you can't wait to try to transition. You have to transition. You have to know when your body is telling you, hey, this is time, right? And in doing this tournament, it is considered more of a minor league, right? But in respect to closer to a developmental tournament. So we want teams to be able to train over the year, right, and come to this tournament and be competitive, right? So every year we try to make it more competitive. So, but sometimes I see kids cry,
Big tears
because they want to win, you know, and that's the I don't want to see them cry, but that's the atmosphere I try to create. It's competitive.
But you know, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. Listen, when I see children crying but they're able to pick themselves up and go again, like, you remember back in the day when we used to have to travel to Trinidad for athletics, right?
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't run, but I would have thrown and she would have run, right? You would cry. I remember crying because how I could get silver, like, me? Why? And I'm sure, you know, when you see somebody smiling with their medal or whatever, that carries through all sports, you know? I just think the older that you get is the more that you're able to suppress your emotions, or if not just suppress it, but understand that this is just part of it, you know?
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some, and you move on with a plan of getting back, you know, at the top one day.
And I think, you know, coaches need to also ensure that they are, you know, teaching the kids about being able to win and being able to lose. The aim is to win, but when you lose, you don't lose, you learn. right? And in that regard, it's good that, the tournament is competitive. Last year we had at least 6 or 7 academies came in from Trinidad, impacting sports tourism. The ferry, the airfare, the accommodations. Like, one of the teams messaged me already, and she was like, hey, I have 40 persons. So I called one of the places in Tobago and say, what's the cost of 40 to house 40 persons. And in doing that, it's healthy for Tobago, because now you're bringing money in to spread it throughout the diaspora of Tobago. Whether it's groceries, because they had to eat, the maxi taxis, etc. So, a lot of persons gain revenue, even the service providers themselves, so that's a plus that the tournament does, really. And I think it has become a staple on the island, right? Definitely, I would say that, just to encourage these coaches to ensure that they teach the kids, when you win, okay, no problem. But when you lose, do not utilize it as a means of, running into the kids and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good take. But sometimes people do feel as though, you lose, so
yeah.
tomorrow, it's 20 laps.
Yeah. And now I could say, Karys, like, when I look at the Kikeri campus from the atmosphere last year, there was everybody have a social media now, right? And I saw a lot of the kids like reposting Kikeri Karyn, and I was like,
yeah, well, they take it by storm now. They take it by storm. But that's good to see that the momentum picks up on its own after a while, Yeah. That is excellent. And we're living in the technological age anyway.
Right.
So that's exactly where you want to see people go to, But so I want to jump to not just your achievements, but in hindsight, coming up through the sport, are there any pathways that you wish that you would have taken that you didn't? Yeah, I had to think.
I wouldn't change anything.
You wouldn't?
Why? Because I think it would have made me who I am today. When I now went on the national team, I'm talking a lot now, but I never used to talk. Around 13, 14 thereabouts is when I went to the national team. Now, we all grew. And we get to interact a little bit more and expose a little bit more. I'm still a bit shy when I'm ready. I'm still growing out of it, right? I'm a person, I could be a person of many words and I could be a person of few, because that's just my personality. I'm always thinking. I'm a thinker, right? Sometimes when you see I go quiet, I am thinking. I'm always actively thinking. I'm always trying to be a better person, right? And I would say I wouldn't change anything. And the only reason why, because it made me who I am today, right? If I change anything in my past, then I wouldn't have the outcome I have. So I grew to become the person that I am, and I'm becoming, right? And I read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, and it was really a delightful book, which I was never always a reader. But I understand the importance of it now. So I'm really grateful for the journey. I would not change anything, Karys.
Yeah, that's a good take. Yeah. And sometimes you really have to think through your journey to see, would I have amended this probably bad decision or this call or this, because it's good to do introspection.
Yes,
it's good to do introspection. I'm certain. Throughout your journey, even things, you mentioned things within your personality changed.
Yeah.
Did it come as a surprise to persons around you that you started to expand out, or is it that, it was just expected?
The more that I discovered myself, Karys, is the more that my crowd pick itself, right? I've always been a focused young lady, and I self-discovery because I knew that God has more for me, right? And I was kind of set apart based on the things that I exposed myself to. So I exposed myself to more, like listening to more persons who have been successful, seeing, coming from humble beginnings and wanting to be better. I had to ensure that everything that I do is in respect to being putting myself in the esteemed position so I could help my mother, help she achieve certain things that she wanted to achieve, that or the opportunities that she didn't have. She gave me everything, right? That she gave me everything that I need. I didn't always get everything that I want. So I grew with that humility, and it has stuck with me for today. So I have never, no matter what room I step into, no matter where I have gone, no matter the heights, the depth that I have gotten to, or the altitude, it has never changed who I am, because I understand what it is not to have. And, certain situations could have just change you. And I really would have liked to see how I operated even on the bigger sphere, if given the opportunity where politics is concerned, because now it steps you out of your comfort zone in a different arena. So I wanted to see that challenge. For me personally, my political aspiration had nothing to do with my opponent. It just had more so than ever to do with me challenging me, and I mean, persons would have never seen it like that, but I just telling you, this is the truth behind me. I always wanted a new challenge because I felt like I started to grow out of the national space. Right? And this opportunity came up and I was like, Lord, politics, boy?
I could just imagine. Because, I mean, okay, I don't really discuss politics here, but let's lean into it a little bit, right? For most persons that are outside of the political space, politics is something very far away from your thoughts. It's like, oh, well, that's what the government doing, But when you're now a candidate presenting yourself for the opportunity for leadership, it changes a lot. And I'm certain behind every campaign, there's a lot of, not just the machinery, but there's a lot of skills and a lot of things that they attempt to train you on that widens your scope as to what it takes leadership-wise to run a country or to represent a constituency, right? When you were on that journey, what did you discover?
So I would first say, Caris, I am very much grateful for that opportunity. I'm happy that I've put myself in an uncomfortable position because it's the only way you can grow, right? And I was grateful for that. In terms of being able to lead the country, I take full delight in that because I've always been a person love to serve, right? I said, Lord, anything that I do going forward, it must be service to others. I feel most at home when I'm doing that, right? Some people hold on to material things and maybe that is just what they know. But I hold on to the fact that, as I told, I went to the YES program. I was invited as a mentor there today. And I said to the girls, I said, what will make me feel good is for a young lady saying, hey, I want to continue and not giving up. And that brings joy to me. No, I can't speak for everybody else. But, going that political route, even though politics is what it is now, the service part is why I was more focused on, right? And I was able to meet a lot of people that didn't even know me then, that probably would have heard of me, that now saying they had an opportunity to actually see me in the physical realm, and also had an opportunity to interact. And one of the things that I've done on that journey, I said, you know what, I'm going to be totally honest and I'm going to run a clean campaign. And as I said, because of my character, because of my integrity as a person, now I can't speak for everybody else, but I can speak for me. So
you're comfortable then?
Definitely. So I knew that I didn't have to go against anything of any one of my morals or values because I stood to that throughout, and I must say it has challenged me tremendously because it was a space that I knew a little about, and then now I had to go and read up this and read up the THA Acts and these things. And again, it was a challenge, but I was grateful because there are things that I didn't know that I know now. Right? And I think that is really good on my behalf. And as I say, I more saw it as good for me, opposed to trying to say I'm going up against them, because we are immeasurable. We cannot be measured. We cannot. If you understand, you cannot be measured. I cannot be measured. So, I wasn't measuring myself against somebody. I was really trying to be better than where I was, a new challenge of leadership. How do I operate? What do I do? Because there are a lot of persons who were on my team that I've never worked with. So, and then I saw certain things that I would never work with. So I had to find a way on how to work with that, So it was an extreme challenge. I had to settle down. It wasn't enough time to really say, okay, change this, change that, but, as a leader. But I had to navigate through it.
Yeah. So in general, most people hold the opinion that it's people before politics, right? And now that the dust has settled politically as to who persons would have chosen, do you still see yourself being a Tobagonian, being a leader, offering yourself to service, right? Regardless of who calls? Yeah. Are you open to that?
I'm very open to that, simply because I think one of the biggest issues in society is that we don't know how to respect persons, right? So let's say, for example, if you support one party, why can't I not speak to you and respect you at the same time?
Absolutely.
I don't need to argue with you. That's why two things I don't argue, which is religion and politics, because it's personal. Right? We all will have our thoughts and how things supposed to go and so forth. But I am prepared to serve regardless. But I will still have my stance as to what I like and who I will support, if you understand what I mean. And that has nothing to do with anybody else, if you ask me, because we all have a personal choice. But service, there's nothing at all, because I went into THA today and spoke in THA, and it was for the sake of the girls, not the fact that, if you understand what I mean.
I feel like, small island politics, you often see, the cliques, you often see, a lot of divisiveness coming out of the political space, because people, when they lean into one group, and we carry it through school, through adulthood, right? So I guess we're kind of modeling the behaviors that we would have had back then.
Yeah.
You rally hard for your team, you support your team 100%, and if anybody say anything against it, you're like, no, you cannot say that. Oh my, so we see that coming out within our adults, but I feel like there's a maturity that has to take place, seeing that all adults, we are the ones to carry the mandate of, self-respect, maturity, what the young people will aspire to. The way that we behave and the way that we portray ourselves is generally what they would adapt to.
Right.
So if we can't deal with each other with humility and deal with each other, just understanding that we all bring different things to the table, and the whole goal here is to foster the better development of the island. Well, speaking as a Tobagonian, or a greater development of the nation.
Right.
Speaking as a country, right? We have to kind of put that aside and work with the skills that we have here. Because deep down inside, I feel like some of our best talents have been lost to a political battle.
Yeah, it's always going to be a difficult thing, right? One of the things that I did mention on my interview is that I think persons that are selected should more have a record of serving before they are chosen. That's just my thoughts, right? Doesn't have to be everyone's thoughts. No, the space of politics have changed, and getting involved, I get to see much more. No, you have to educate yourself. You can't just sit down and say, oh, well, that's none of my business. You can't say that no more. Because whether you like it or not, you are affected indirectly.
Directly.
Right?
Directly. We're in Tobago. No, let's be realistic. And that's why I started at small island politics. 60,000 persons, probably a little bit more. We're all affected directly by any policy, any political move or shift or shake. Each one of us could, and if not us, in our immediate space.
Correct.
So I feel like that is why I hold a certain viewpoint when it comes to politics. And I do hope that, that eventually we not grow out, but go through, that expectation or that behavior?
So for me, Caris, and I just being plain and frank here, I offer myself because I love serving, right? However, that didn't work out. But, we sometimes we have our plan, but God knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
Right? So I take this as an opportunity, a lot, like, if not everybody that met me was like, go again, go again, go again. I think they like the fact that I've been dynamic. I was able to move so quickly from, being just sports wise into this arena. And I had always surprised of myself, but what I started to do, I started to tune in a lot more. I started to pay attention a lot more. And if I never gone into this space, I would have never been paying attention to a lot of things. So a lot of things much more piqued my interest because I realized the difference makers, the movers and shakers is us. The person that really wants to go there and make a difference, right? And a difference in doing your part. People feel like when you're going to change the world, you have to run and you trying to change everything at the same time. No, you impact, you do your part, because by you doing your part, you don't know who you're inspiring. That's because I am telling you, Caris, every single person that have met me, like I thought I was popular then. Now is a whole different level because because of the way that I ran my campaign. And you would think like, didn't I not lose? This kind of way.
No, and what's very refreshing to me right now is your disposition.
Yeah.
Outside of me knowing you personally, is seeing you post political journey and you're happy, and it's genuinely coming from the fact that you were comfortable with the way that you handled yourself.
Definitely. I was so happy that I walked in with my integrity and I'm walking out with it.
Yeah.
And again, I just give thanks for the opportunity, right? I think it's a space that a lot of persons fearful to go into. And I understand why, because it's not what it's supposed to be, but it is that, and that's reality, right? But we have two choices as a person, to be a good person or to be a bad person. It's still a choice, right? So you have a choice. If you in a leadership position, try your best to be good and do what you need to do to the best of your ability, or you do what you want to do, if you understand. But we all get our chances. This may not be my time, but okay, guess what? I have been moving on. I have been, still impacting lives, right? I'm still doing what I have to do. And that's my part in society. And the Lord has placed each of us here, you doing this podcast show. I'm sure that you are grateful, that you are able to host other persons, let them share their story. Yeah. And you are actually enjoying and being passionate about what you do. And, this loss is not going to stop me from serving, because at the end of the day, that's all I know that makes me happy outside of certain things.
Fantastic. So I want to know, and because we're intertwining the two aspects of the discussion, what did you take from in your book that you used on the campaign that you felt like this was an advantage for me?
So I would say resilience, right? I didn't care who I was going up against. I didn't care what the space gave. I just had this willpower, like I am challenging myself, and it was tunnel vision for me. Literally. Yeah. I wasn't even, like when you're running a race, right, Caris, and you start to look over into the another lane, you slow down.
Yeah.
Right? So I was literally running a race to get to as much persons that I could get to and just be honest. I have not told anybody I'm going to fix your road, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I told them, I said, listen, it has some couple people walked off because they're so upset of the space, what it became. And I met with a lot of persons that I said, listen, I ain't here to this. The elephant in the room is the promises. I ain't here to do that. So if you want to talk to me and you want to give this young lady an opportunity, do that. But outside of that, I'm not here to tell you anything other than that.
Yeah, because your whole goal was always service in the first place. And I think that, we ask for that, Oh, gosh. We often ask for that, oh, why we don't have some young person to come and stand up and to step up and serve with pride and dignity. And then, when you tell them, well, it's pride and dignity I all have. They're like, so we're meaning her fixing the road. And this is exactly why I don't talk politics, because I am too unserious. You understand?
I actually, and just to add, Karis, before you continue, I actually spoke to someone that is a sports personality as well, that has played nationally. And the person told me, he said, Karyn, you know, by you stepping forward, it gave me hope, because I wanted to, but, you know, we just kind of hiding.
Yeah.
You know, so much people kind of hiding, but they want to do it. You know, they want to serve. They see that they can make a difference. And I really hope by me stepping forward, it continue to help other persons to know that is we had to carry on the mantle.
Yeah.
You know, so by us doing what we're doing, the next generation is looking on, but it's how we lead is how they're going to see, okay, well, let we continue on that trajectory, or we just do what we want.
Yeah, well, I totally get you. So, guys, in this training manual, it is more so leadership. And as Karyn would have harped on about the fact that, you know, anybody could utilize these things.
Yeah.
You know, I would recommend for you all to, you know, cop the book, get the book, read. And I know many of you don't like to read, but I'm very certain that eventually things can be put in place for that.
Yes.
So, Karyn, please tell us how we'll be able to get a copy. Give us, you know, one of the main things that you enjoy the most about your writing process, about what you would have put on paper. And then we're wrapping this podcast. So tell me where we get in the book and what you enjoy the most. So
you can, well, tomorrow is the physical launch. I'm not sure if I mentioned that to you. Okay, so tomorrow, tomorrow, please God, is the physical launch at Tropical Resort Plaza. That's in Plymouth, right? Some persons know it as Mr. McFarlane Guest House, right? On the left-hand side as you come down from Roosters. Because a lot of persons been messaging, hey, where's this place? Is it in Canaan? No, I said right in Plymouth. You know, right now, I'm not able to keep my tournament in Plymouth because there's no lights on the field, right? So this year I wouldn't be able to do it either.
So the tournament isn't happening, or it's happening elsewhere?
It's happening in Shaw Park.
Okay.
Right? And simply because of not having the facilities to be able to, you know, all right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something within the village. And, you know, this book lord serves as that. And additionally, also having a little cultural aspect of it, where having a little dance. So two little girls going to be dancing. We're going to have a poem. We're going to have a steel pan player, which is Kirsch Ramsey, you know, one of the exotic panists on the island. You know, and we just have a nice cultural evening. And one of the reasons for doing that is because I realized Tobagonians in particular, they value that. They like that type of vibes. So instead of just doing a flat out book launch, we're going to just have 3 speakers, which is myself, Akil Guy, and Pastor Dill. Right? Because Jamal Shabazz, which was the coach that would have recruited me first on the national team, he was supposed to come, but, you know, he has a pro league team, so he's not able to come. So within each speaker, we're going to have some cultural aspects happening. And the purpose for that is so we have a nice little evening.
Is it open to the public, or is it invite only?
So I know I can't invite everyone. I would love to. All right. But I had a couple of people who reached out and say, hey, is this a paid event? I said, no, it isn't. So the few people that has reached out to me first, I was able to say, not a problem, I will have you come, right? Because I don't want to turn back people. That is not my aim. If I could have everybody here, I don't mind. But I don't want them to come and then I can't feed the capacity.
They're not prepared,
right? Because I think it should have like between 50 to 100 persons out there tomorrow if everybody comes. copies. So yes, so that's going to be the launch. You can access a full copy. I did not get all my copies, but I still have some copies there tomorrow. And whoever needs a copy, they could always reach out to me by 352-7552. You can reach out to me, Karyn Forbes, on Instagram, on Facebook. You could message me whenever I have other copies if I don't have much more, because I think a lot of persons has reached out to concerning the copies, people interested in hearing your story, wanting that as their motivational guide, and that's really cool that people are gravitating to you. Hence the reason why I did not put my Instagram and Facebook private. I did it public so I could get more persons following me, so I could share my message.
I think you need to set up a page for the book too, so people could actually go and message you, so in case they may want to purchase, they could do so directly. That's just a suggestion, but you do your thing, right? So in closing, tell me, what did you enjoy the most about your journey writing this book? Give me one main thing that you wanted to drive home.
I think I love people, right? I love my family. I love my friends. I can't even see, somebody get cut. I don't even like to see blood, right? I think I have immense...
What a weird feel you chose, because, hello, everybody be falling down like London Bridge.
I love people. I like inspiring people, right? Of course, you can't be a fool with it too, but I like inspiring people. And I think, with this book in particular, I was able to, share my story. So I know that, persons who are reading it, they can really get a feel for what I've been through, because a lot of persons feel, you use Karyn Forbes, like you just wake up and be successful. No, we have to go through things. We have been going through things. There are days that you feel like giving up. There are days that are tough, but that's where the tough get going. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Coming off the election and then going right into it is that resilience and that discipline and that dedication to, continue to pursue. So I want persons to really understand within this book in particular that, it was never easy. It's a journey. You are running your own race, right? I am running my race. I have been successful, author, entrepreneur, etc. But I still feel like there's more out there. And then why not? Why settle? Why not push beyond the limit? And this is one of my favorite quotes that I often say: the sky's the limit is overplayed. There's really no limit.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. So guys, that's it from us here at the podcast. I do hope you all enjoyed hearing all about Karyn's journey. I know this is not the first time we're chatting with her pertaining to, what football entails and all the different things, but every time we talk, we hear something new and something more unique and refreshing. So I hope you all go out and get the book. Please reach out to her on her platforms or at her contact. And guys, I usually tell you all to stay tenaciously resolute. That's a character trait. So lean into it, lean into being headstrong, lean into holding on and going full out on your dreams. And I will see you all next week. Bye. Welcome to the Tenaciously Resolute podcast.